Recently, I got a pretty sad and disturbing comment from a crew member, and truthfully, it sent me down a rabbit hole to find out more about cruise gratuities. Some of this just might shock you. Hi there, I'm Ilana from the website lifewellcruise.com. Welcome back to my channel. Now, this is not a video to debate cruise ship gratuities. I know everybody has their opinions about this, but if you've ever wondered, do the crew know when passengers remove their gratuities? How are the cruise ship gratuities divided, and does the crew really get them? Well, basically, this is in good part what this video is about. And again, the topic of this video was spurred on by a comment left by a crew member. Now, since that time, I've really researched this, and I've also really deeply thought about my own opinions about cruise ship gratuities, and honestly, some of it might surprise you. And your thoughts might be different than mine, and that's okay. Now, before I get started, I did want to mention that if you like this video, if you find it helpful, informative, or enjoyable in any way, then please do give this video a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it, and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Let's get started. Okay, so let's start off with that comment from a crew member, and I am paraphrasing now. The worst thing that a passenger can do is remove the automatic daily gratuities on the last day of the cruise after I've worked all week, and then they sneak off the cruise ship on disembarkation day, or even sometimes they shake my hand and they leave me a blank card with nothing in it. After I've been working the entire week trying to make their vacation good and keep their cabin clean, it is the worst feeling, and I feel like crying. Now, that comment made me really sad. Now, for those that don't know, most mainstream cruise lines do charge an automatic daily gratuity. Sometimes they call it a crew incentive. Sometimes it's a service charge. But basically, every day, there is a charge of approximately $15 to $20 per person per day of your cruise. Now, who gets that? We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But it stands to reason that the housekeeping staff or the cabin attendant who now sees that you've removed the daily gratuities, well, their income is actually affected. Now, what really surprised me about this was the idea that crew members know when you remove the gratuity. So I did decide to do a little bit of research on this, and this has been a pretty hotly debated topic both on Cruise Critic message boards or forums, as well as in Facebook groups. Now, it really is hard to say for sure. However, I did find an article by Cruise Critic that does state that they've been informed by the cruise lines that the crew doesn't know who removes their tips, at least during the sailing. However, I did come across a message board on Cruise Critic where many people said that this was actually not the case, that the crew members do know. Even one person saying that they had done a galley tour and they saw a list of cruise passengers who actually removed their gratuities. Now, some people said that upper management on the cruise ship even have meetings about this, and they would know who has removed their tips. And in particular, one of the reasons that they might be doing this is if there is a service issue that does need to be addressed, this is something important for them to know. Now, does this mean that somebody who removes their automatic daily gratuities, that they will get poor service? No, I don't think it means that at all. But it can leave the cruise ship crew, well, not feeling so wonderful. And that, I think, is just a human reality. Now, for people who decide that they want to remove the gratuities and they want to give people a tip individually, something that you might consider doing, if that is the case, is let your cabin attendant know that you are going to be tipping them individually, or even give a certain amount at the very beginning so that they do know that you don't plan on just leaving the cruise ship without giving them any sort of gratuity. Now, there have been reports of crew members saying that they actually don't get the gratuities, that they've been telling some cruise passengers this. However, many crew members confirm that this is not the case. Now, I cannot say for sure. So if you are a crew member, or if you work for a cruise line, or even if you're a passenger who just happens to be in the know, definitely leave that information in the comments below. So where do the crew gratuities go, and should you be leaving an additional amount to those automatic daily charges? So first of all, it seems like most cruise lines now really do pool that money, and it is divided by various people who work on the cruise ship in the service of us, the passengers, passengers, even if they may be behind the scenes. So this, of course, includes housekeeping and your cabin attendant, but it also would include dining staff. When I did look at some of the terms and conditions found on the cruise line's website, sometimes I saw other words mentioned, including galley and guest services. And the cruise lines usually do specify that it is people that work behind the scenes, and of course, they are helping to enhance all of our vacations. Now, when it comes to the automatic daily gratuities or crew incentive or crew appreciation, I've seen some people ask about, if you give a tip individually to a crew member, do they have to turn that in to be part of a pool? So there is no definitive answer on this. There are some people who say that if you remove the automatic daily gratuities, then the crew member does need to hand that in as part of the pool to be divided up. However, other people say that that is not the case. Now, there are still other people that say, as long as you've paid your automatic daily gratuities, when you do give an additional amount to a crew member, they are able to keep it. I'm inclined to believe that that's probably the case. Now, should people leave an additional amount on top of the crew appreciation or the standard gratuity? That really is a personal decision. I think that if you feel that somebody has gone above and beyond, or somebody has given you really personalized service, if you can afford it and you feel comfortable with that, then I think it is something nice to give an additional amount. So especially if it's your cabin attendant, it usually is the most intimate experience that we have on a cruise ship, and I personally think that they do an amazing job. So if you want to give an additional amount, my understanding from people, because people often ask for an amount, and this is still very personal, so give what you feel is right. But what I have heard is that people tip anywhere from $20 to $40 or $50 for a 7-day cruise. Now, obviously, some people are going to tip more. Some people are not going to tip at all, but that is what I've been told is around the standard amount. So what are my thoughts on cruise ship gratuities? I know that this is hotly debated, and it's been debated for years and years. But I actually wondered, are we debating something that's not even worth debating? The reason I mentioned this, and this is, by the way, outside of cruises that are sailing in countries where tips are not part of your culture. So for instance, if you are in Australia, you pay for your cruises where you are. And I would imagine perhaps the price that you pay for a cruise might be adjusted for the fact that you usually don't pay any additional gratuities. However, as is pointed out on Royal Caribbean's website, the idea of tipping on a cruise is really industry standard. And I did think about it. When I go to a restaurant, and again, I'm going to say a restaurant in Canada where I live, or in the United States where I might travel a lot, I automatically expect to give a tip. The tip is not included in the price of my meals. Sometimes even when we go to a restaurant and we're 6 or more people, a service charge is even already added automatically to our bill. Now, when I go to a hotel, sometimes I see that I'm charged a resort fee. Most of the time, I don't even know what that is for. But it does seem like in part of the hospitality industry, this is something that is done. Now, one thing I really do wish that cruise lines would do, even if they are not including tips in their fares, usually for most mainstream cruise lines, I do wish that they would make it very clear at the beginning of the booking process. And I say this especially for new cruisers who might get a big sticker shock at the end of their cruise when they find out that they have to pay an automatic daily gratuity, and they might be some of the people that are taking that off just because they hadn't even budgeted that in for their cruise. Now, I do think that people have options. After all, cruise lines do say that you can go and adjust those gratuities either up or down, or you can remove them entirely. I think on the most part, they're not encouraging it, they're discouraging it. And if there is an issue with the service that you're receiving on the cruise, I do think that instead of removing the gratuities, it's a good idea to talk to guest services, talk to a supervisor, talk to a hotel manager, bring it up, because you should be getting good service, because you don't want to penalize that crew member that is relying on that money for their income. Now, I would love to hear from you. Do you think that that is true? Do you think that the crew are aware who removed the gratuities? And would that make a change maybe in the way you think that some people might handle their gratuities? Please do let me know down in the comments below. I always enjoy reading your comments, and I appreciate you contributing to the discussion. If you enjoyed this video, please do give it a big thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Bye for now, and happy cruising.